As you know, we run a rescue at Snake Discovery, and on average, we take in 1 to 15 or so surrenders every single day. It is so rewarding finding these animals their new homes and their new families, but not all of the cases end happily, unfortunately. We've learned a lot over the years, so today we have compiled a list of the top 10 tips for running a reptile rescue in case you're planning on opening up your own. Tip number 10, which we're gonna start at 10, work our way down to tip number 1, which is, in our opinion, the most important tip we have to share with you today.
Before you get into it though, who do you got in your hand there?
This is Benedict, one of our male hognoses. He has no heads, he has no morph, he's just a plain old normal.
So plain old, well, he's technically green line.
Yeah, he doesn't look very green.
No.
Anyway, tip number 10 is to have a well-stocked medications toolbox. We have a video all about how to make a first aid kit for reptiles, and we'd highly recommend, if you're going to open up a rescue, having that first aid kit on hand. But for a rescue situation, we also recommend adding 1 ml syringes, 25 gauge needles, either 3/4 inch or 1 inch, and a microchip reader. You'll probably need other supplies too, but that'll come with time. The first aid kit plus those additions are a great starting point for a reptile rescue. Tip number 9, have a clear set of guidelines for what animals you can take in and which ones you cannot. For example, do you want to take in aquatic turtles? Aquatic turtles need a lot of space, they need filtration, special lighting, just a lot of resources in order to take them in. Plus, if you take in aquatic turtles, you will get a bajillion of them within a week. We actually don't take in aquatic turtles at Snake Discovery because of all the space that they require. Another example is, do you want to take in XL reptiles like large reticulated pythons or big sulcata tortoises? Or anacondas. They need a lot of extra space in order to house properly, even in temporary conditions. So you might want to consider whether or not you'll take those in. And finally, a big one to think about is, are you going to take in sick reptiles and amphibians? Sick animals require a lot more time, money, resources to rehab before they can be adopted out. So are you up for that? Do you have the funds to take care of sick animals? If not, then it's best not to take them in the first place. But keep in mind that the more restrictive you are, the more likely you're gonna have an animal just abandoned anonymously at your doorstep because the owners can't think of any other way to rehome their animal. In the years that we have been running our rescue adoption island at Snake Discovery, we've only ever had 1 corn snake that was abandoned in front of our door. And I think it's because they came before our staff arrived for the day, so they just left it at the door.
We also had a duck surrendered.
Oh, we did have a duck.
That doesn't really count though.
No, I don't think the duck counts.
We don't take aquatic things.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. On a related note, make sure you don't shame owners for surrendering their animal and don't pressure them into surrendering it if they aren't ready to. If somebody feels like they're gonna be judged for surrendering an animal, like say a sick animal, then there's a good chance they're gonna instead hide that animal from the public, which eventually causes the animal to die because it doesn't get the care that it needs. So let owners make their own decisions, don't pressure them one way or the other. No judgment will actually lead to a better outcome for rescued reptiles.
Who do you have with you now?
Oh, this is Lavandula, the ball python. He is a lavender albino, black pastel.
Oh yeah, he's gorgeous.
Gorgeous, future breeder. Tip number 8, have a well-defined surrender form to release someone's animal into your care. The reason why this is so important is for legality reasons, honestly. Someone could surrender a sick animal to your rescue and you get it healthy again, then that same individual might come back claiming that that's their animal, it's stolen, and you might not have proof that it is in fact an animal that was surrendered to you. So a surrender form that clearly defines the ownership of the animal transferring from the person surrendering it to the rescue is very important for that reason. Similarly, I would recommend having a well-written adoption form as well, transferring the ownership of the animal from the rescue to their new family, who is then signing and agreeing that they are then in charge of that animal, including any potential future health issues that it may encounter. And this, by the way, is Aomer, our Mexican black king snake, who we've had, I think, longer than almost all of the other Mexican black kings.
I think he's been with us forever.
Yeah, he was just a little baby when we took him in. Tip number 7, which, by the way, this is Charlotte, my favorite hognose in our collection. She's just a plain old albino, but we've had her since before her first meal.
Yeah, she was a super picky eater when you first got her, so she was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, she's a good eater now, though.
Yeah, she looks like it.
Yeah. Anyway, tip number 7 is to be very observant with animal health. This starts with a comprehensive health inspection as soon as a new animal is surrendered to your rescue. Doing a health inspection right away will help identify and diagnose health issues right off the bat so that a new surrender can get proper treatment as soon as it enters quarantine, and it can help prevent contagious diseases from spreading from a new surrender into your other animals that are already in quarantine.
Yeah, you don't want to make your healthy animals sick by bringing in a new surrender.
Yeah, for example, like if you had a new snake come in and it was covered in snake mites and you didn't notice it at first, and then you put it into your quarantine rack and it spreads mites to the rest of your animals in your rescue.
Now everything needs to be treated.
Yes.
That one animal.
Yes, if you had done an initial health inspection right away, notice the mites, and then you could separate and treat before it goes into quarantine with the rest. So definitely do a health inspection on every new animal right away. Then continue being observant over their health throughout quarantine, throughout a treatment process, really the entire time the animal is in your care. Sometimes recovered or healed animals may start exhibiting symptoms for another illness down the line, whether or not it's related to the initial problem. For example, we had a pinstripe ball python that was surrendered to us that had a scratch down its back, so we treated it, got it all healed, and it seemed fine, but then it started developing weird bumps along its side near its tail. Turns out it was experiencing organ failure, unfortunately, so it had to be euthanized in the end. So that's why it's so important to be observant throughout the entire time animals are in your care. Tip number 6, have strict policies for various diseases. Which illnesses do you have to euthanize for versus attempt to treat? Think about contagious diseases, especially ones that are not treatable. For example, yellow fungus in bearded dragons. Our policy at Snake Discovery unfortunately has to be, if a bearded dragon comes in with confirmed yellow fungus, it has to be euthanized because it's going to pass away anyway, and it's not treatable as well as very contagious.
We have about 25 bearded dragons on hand at Snake Discovery's adoption program almost all the time, and we can't risk their lives since they're healthy just by bringing in one bearded dragon with yellow fungus.
Right, because it would expose all the healthy dragons to yellow fungus. And this also goes for animals that have suspected contagious diseases. While you wait for test results to come back, you don't want to put a questionable animal next to healthy animals in case it does have that disease that you're worried about, because then during that waiting time, it will then expose all your healthy reptiles to whatever illness it has. So what your policy is for animals with suspected contagious diseases is up to you specifically, but perhaps a separate quarantine room for animals that are suspected to have something before they can get moved into or graduated to the normal quarantine. Just food for thought. This is a tip that you can even implement before opening your reptile rescue by researching various diseases in reptiles. Become familiarized with the most common ones seen in reptiles in captivity, their symptoms, their treatment, their outcome, everything, so that when you inevitably are surrendered a sick reptile, you know what signs to look for and what it could potentially be. And not only does this apply to diseases specifically, but sometimes reptiles are surrendered into a rescue that are disease-free, but they are so neglected that there's no chance of them coming back, unfortunately. We sometimes get leopard geckos that are so skinny, they're cryptosporidium free, but they're so skinny that their kidneys have already shut down. So a test we like to do is offer them food. And if they have an appetite, that usually means their kidneys are still functioning and so they have a chance. But if they don't eat and they're deathly skinny, there's a chance the kidneys have shut down. So you kind of have to think about quality of life with surrendered animals. On a more happier note, this is Sunny Side Up, our scaleless A-male corn snake.
She hasn't been seen in a while.
No, she hasn't. Look how big she's gotten.
Yeah, she's gotten huge.
Yeah. Well, we are officially halfway through, so we're gonna take a quick break and do a shameless plug to Snake Discovery merch. You can get the Snake Discovery Noodle Fam shirt at snakediscoverystore.com and become part of the Noodle Fam. Also, this is Chalky Milk, the female black milk snake who was the mother of the clutch this year. Tip number 5. Keep everything well organized. This includes your medical supplies, husbandry equipment, cleaning equipment, paperwork, and how you organize the animals themselves. To organize our animals, we've found that using small little cards for ID cards work great for each individual animal, and we slide them into Pokemon card sleeves at the front of each enclosure. This seems to work great. It keeps the cards from coming into contact with water since they're safe and in a sleeve, and they're easy to move around if the animal changes enclosures. So feel free to steal the Pokemon sleeve idea from us if you would like.
Make sure you get the good Pokemon sleeves, though.
Oh, yeah.
The cheap ones just fall apart, and then you guys ask for more trouble.
They do, yeah. Get the good Pokemon card sleeves for sure.
The ones with like Mew and like Mewtwo on the back?
Yep,
Yeah.
those are the good ones for ID card sleeves. You can get them, I think, at Amazon, and we get the cards off of Amazon as well, the ID cards. We'll put links to everything mentioned in the description below. But on their ID cards, we include the animal's name, the species, the sex, if we know it, their age, if we know it, their available date out of quarantine, assuming they're healthy, their adoption fee, minimum enclosure size, and special notes for that animal if we have them.
Yeah, now you know what we're reading off of when we do the adopt-a-thons.
Yeah, exactly. Tip number 4, use a strong disinfectant. Some cleaners, like isopropyl alcohol, are used for general cleaning, but they're not strong enough for rescue use because they evaporate too quickly to actually kill things on the surface. Use a disinfectant that will actually kill pathogens on enclosures, decor, and your equipment. We like to use a disinfectant called Buckeye. Our vet recommended this. We switched about 6 months ago or so from chlorhexidine, and this kills a lot more than chlorhexidine does, so we switched over. It seems to work great, and a nice thing about it is you don't have to rinse off objects after disinfecting with this, which makes it a lot easier for our staff to dry and put equipment back in their place.
The only bad thing about that is you have to talk to a salesman, and he comes out and gives you and then sells you the dispenser and everything. So it's more of a commercial use disinfectant, but there are some other really good ones out there.
And if you can get your hands on Buckeye, we really do like this stuff. It is nice. It comes, a lot of these disinfectants, not just Buckeye, come in a very concentrated kind of bladder bag, and then you dilute it with water to put it in a spray bottle.
Who do you have this time? That's a really little snake.
She's so little. This one doesn't have a name yet. This is our holdback Super Conda Lavender Hognose. Look how big she's getting.
She's getting huge. She's still gray.
She's still gray. Yeah, she's not as pretty as Condos, but she's getting prettier with every shed. Tip number 3. Get your name out there. Think of how people are going to find your rescue, whether to surrender an animal or to adopt one. We highly recommend utilizing social media platforms to help get your name out there. So make a Facebook page, make an Instagram account for your rescue specifically. And on top of it, make sure you post often. Don't just let it linger. You can post fun facts, you could post available animals, special cases, unique species, really anything to help encourage engagement. That'll help spread word for your rescue, which ultimately turns into more animals finding homes. If you're really serious about having a long-term rescue, it might be worth reaching out to somebody to create or develop an actual website for your rescue. That'll make you look very professional to people who are looking to surrender or adopt.
Who do you have there?
Oh, I have Tutti Frutti.
Oh,
this is
another
our
long-term with Snake Discovery.
Yes, Tutti Frutti is one of our oldest snakes. She's still kicking. She's what, 26 now?
Something like that.
Yeah, she's in her mid-20s. She's a variable king snake. We thought she was a milk snake for the longest time.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's just a
Pulled
big...
the old switcheroo on us.
She did! Turns out she was our very first variable king. Tip number 2, have a good relationship with a reptile veterinarian. I don't mean a cat or dog vet that also sees reptiles, I mean an actual reptile veterinarian. You're gonna see some weird cases surrendered to you if you run a rescue. We do all the time. And having a veterinarian that is familiar with weird diseases and illnesses
And specializes with reptiles.
yes, is so important to running a reptile rescue. We are lucky enough to have Dr. Doug Gates from Bush Lake Pet Hospital in not Bloomington, Eden Prairie. They just moved. He is an amazing vet. You've seen him on our channel a couple times in the past, and he stops by our rescue every 6 to 8 weeks or so to help us with some of our more questionable cases that we don't know what they have, and he donates his time to help out those rescues. However, don't rely on a veterinarian to donate their time for you. Support their clinic. Go and make appointments when needed. Don't take advantage of veterinarians and their time. We make appointments quite frequently, actually, for various cases, and we are so lucky to have Dr. Gates in our lives. Is that okay?
That light just went off.
Well, Lights fixed.
Yep.
Anyway, this is Mr. Wilson, our hypo-albino bull snake. He's been with us for a very long time.
Hey guys.
Figured you hadn't seen him in a while, so we'd have him help with today's video. And tip number 1, which we think debatably is the most important tip we have for you today, and that is to understand that you can't save all of the animals that are surrendered to you. It's really sad at times, but it unfortunately comes with the territory of running a reptile rescue. We have in the past had surrendered animals that need immediate euthanasia because of how bad of condition they're in. There just is zero quality of life. They are suffering, and honestly, what's best for the animal is sadly euthanasia, and that is the case from time to time. Thankfully, it doesn't happen too often, but it still can.
We've even had people surrender dead animals to us.
We sadly have. I think sometimes people know deep down that their, say, ball python needs to be euthanized, but they don't have the heart to make that decision themselves, so they surrender it to us, and we have to make that decision. It's tough sometimes, but you have to focus on the positives.
Yeah,
you have to
all
focus.
the good you're doing.
Yes, the animals that you rehab from rough situations, and you find them great forever homes. That's what you have to focus on, because that's why we do what we do.
Okay, who's our final animal that we have in today's video?
This is Sandy, our Woma python.
Yeah.
She's big. I think she's ovulating. We're trying to breed her right now. We'll see if we're lucky enough to get eggs.
Yes.
All of that being said, running a rescue is a lot of work, and it's very emotionally taxing. Many people think running a rescue is just taking in free animals and then selling them or rehoming them for a profit, but honestly, you're lucky if you break even after taking into consideration medications, time, electricity, and so on and so forth. It's also pretty common for rescues to get overwhelmed with surrenders, and they have to stop taking in more animals, and sometimes they shut down altogether because they're so overwhelmed. We've seen several rescues in the Twin Cities alone that have come and gone, and it's because although they have great intentions and they take in everything, they get so inundated with surrenders so quickly that they just can't keep up. But although it is, again, difficult at times, it is still so rewarding, especially when you focus on the good sides of everything.
Yeah. Taking the animals in, finding good homes, just knowing you're doing a good thing for the animals.
Yeah, and we started our rescue because we realized we're part of the problem. We have a store, a reptile store, where we sell animals, not bearded dragons or leopard geckos because we see them in the rescue way too often, but we do sell some species that are occasionally seen surrendered to our rescue. So we figured since, again, we're part of the problem, we wanted to be a part of the solution too. There are some large chain stores that all they do is sell animals. They don't take or accept surrenders. We want to help wherever we can. We are lucky enough to have an amazing team of staff members who are knowledgeable and willing to help with the rescued animals. And we're lucky enough to have a superhero group of Patreon backers whose funds truly help us out and cover medical bills, supplies, new racks, food, all sorts of things. So thank you, Patreon backers. We really wouldn't be able to do it without you, especially since we take in, again, 1 to 15 animals every day. It's a lot to keep up with, but thank you to all of the support that's out there.
And not only that support, but also everybody who's just watching these videos
Yes.
really do help.
Thank you.
Because there are a lot of funds from YouTube that do go into the adoption program.
Absolutely. Even though today's video is just 10 tips for running a reptile rescue, we had to stop at 10 so it wasn't too much. If you would like an additional 10 tips, we can absolutely make a part 2 for tips 11 through 20 for running a reptile rescue. Just let us know if that's something you'd be interested in the comments below. In the meantime, we want to thank you for watching today's video. Hopefully some of these tips come in handy if you're thinking of starting a reptile rescue yourself. If we missed anything that you think is an important tip that should have been in the top 10, let us know in the comments below, and we can at least try to include it if we do a follow-up or part 2 rescue tip video. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, Sandy.
Sandy!